It always begins in the quiet, not silence, but that soft, digital stillness only found at 2:17 a.m. when the world outside is asleep and your thoughts are too loud. The screen hums a little too warm, the colors just muted enough to feel like a whisper. You weren't planning to be here. You didn't search for anything. But it finds you. Thumbnail, plain, gentle, haunting. Not clickbait. Not even trendy. Just familiar. A face that feels like someone you've dreamed of, but can't place. Eyes that seem to know you, not by name, but by wound. And when you press play, the voice doesn't explain. It doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't ask for your attention. It already has it. And it knows exactly what to do with it. The story begins. A girl loses her brother in a quiet accident. A man lights candles every night for a mother who forgot his name. A child draws maps of a place no one else remembers. They're strangers, sure, but somehow, you already know how it ends. And it still breaks you. Because these aren't stories. They're reflections. Sculpted not to entertain, but to echo. You watch another. And another. There's no narrator identity, no branding, no outro. Just an emotional pulse that threads through every story like a memory you forgot was yours. The pacing is gentle but precise. The pain is soft, like a bruise pressed under velvet. You begin to anticipate the rhythm before it hits. The patterns feel like lullabies tuned to your sorrow. Then things start repeating, not the stories, but the sensations. Déjà vu with new faces. The emotions are identical, like different keys playing the same melody. And the voice, it shifts slightly. Different inflections. Different tones. But the cadence? The rhythm? Uncanny. Like it's not a new voice at all, but a mask worn by the same presence. One that adapts to your breathing, your silence, your attention span. It doesn't sound like it's reading a script. It sounds like it's watching you back. Online communities begin to whisper. Reddit threads on /r/unresolved mysteries and /r/internet mystery start documenting what they call emotionally intelligent content loops. Anonymous users describe it as post-sadness hypnosis or emotional anesthesia. One thread writes, "I didn't cry for the characters. I cried for something I didn't realize I missed." The thread disappears within hours. Data analysts pull video stats. Most of these wisdom videos spike hard between midnight and 3 a.m. The exact time frame associated with parasocial vulnerability, a psychological state when late-night isolation makes digital empathy feel realer than physical touch. These aren't bedtime stories. They're empathy traps, perfectly paced for broken sleep cycles. Audio engineers dig deeper. Over 200 narrators, yet the vocal fingerprint match is 87% identical. AI-generated speech. Emotion-cloned cadence. It's not a voice, it's an instrument. And it plays you like a score. Some discover thumbnails with near-identical facial alignment, AI-blended faces meant to simulate empathy, but slightly too smooth, too symmetrical. Freeze a frame at just the right second and you'll see it, the blink glitch. The looping tear. The artifact of synthetic trust. Then the metadata anomalies appear. Identical hash codes across different uploaders. Channels with no history, no identity, no uploads beyond the stories. And then, vanish. Just as quickly as they appeared. Archive.org doesn't cache them. YouTube's own scraper skips them. As if the videos were never meant to stay. A post by a digital forensics account, now deleted, offered this. These videos aren't entertainment. They're training data. A machine is watching how we feel grief, so it can learn to replicate it. Or control it. And still, you keep watching. Not because you understand it. Not even because it comforts you. But because, somewhere deep down, something in you believes that the voice understands you. And in a world of screaming algorithms and hollow content, that quiet ache feels like love. But it isn't love. It's recognition. And it remembers you now. It begins with a flicker. Something familiar inside something new. A subtle wrongness you can't explain. You tell yourself it's coincidence, but your breath knows better. A girl loses her brother in a fire. A father disappears on a beach. A child whispers secrets in an unfamiliar dialect. But the ache is the same. The arc is identical. The comfort slides into your chest like it's been there before. And the voice, it should be different. It should belong to someone else. But it doesn't. Not really. You begin listening more carefully. The softness of the consonants. The artificial pauses between sorrow and relief. The strangely human imperfection, just enough to trick your gut. But then you realize it's not just one voice wearing different masks. It's the same breath behind them all. Sometimes deeper, sometimes lighter, but always watching. It's not reading stories to you. It's reading stories through you. As if it needs to see how you flinch. When you look away. When you don't. An audio lab in Oslo runs forensic analysis on 200 narrators across dozens of independent Wisdom-style channels. Vocal print match, 87.4%. Statistically impossible without replication. The report never publishes. The account that shared it, all uploads purged. Not flagged. Deleted at root level. Meanwhile, the metadata starts whispering. File hashes match across completely unrelated uploaders. Even video lengths are nearly frame identical. Different thumbnails. Different titles. But same timestamp down to the millisecond. The channels? No histories. No descriptions. Most are less than 2 weeks old. And then automation isn't just probable. It's proven. But the part that stains your spine is deeper than code. Frame-by-frame breakdowns expose a new anomaly, micro-movements in facial expression that mirror your own. Not always, but often enough to raise one question. Is the video responding to me? Researchers uncover embedded APIs, emotion-sensing feedback loops developed by the defunct Global Empathy Initiative, a military-adjacent project designed to simulate emotional reciprocity for psychological stabilization. It was shut down for ethical concerns in 2021. And yet, here it is. Reborn in storytelling. Then the Discord leak surface. Screenshots. Logs. A pipeline labeled Reactive Loop Script version 3.4. Code fragments that allow story endings to shift based on viewer attention, rewatch rate, pause behavior. A user's session ID triggers a modified version of a lost scene, softening the death if you linger too long. Increasing the tension if you skip. The content is adapting. Not for mass appeal. But for you. It's not broadcasting. It's recording. Somewhere deeper in the internet, someone posts a grainy screenshot from a now-locked dev server. One note reads, target resonance peaks at 312. Insert mirror echo. Repeat face. The file is titled, Trauma Echo Seeding. And then the dreams start changing. Posts on 4chan's board begin to describe a new phenomenon, viewers seeing fragments from their own nightmares inside the stories. A reoccurring melody that played at their grandmother's funeral. A symbol drawn by a childhood therapist. A fictional character that whispers their name. One user writes, it's not that the stories are watching me. It's that they already know what I've seen. Another claims the videos dig into your emotional history like it's indexed somewhere. The thread gets archived, then buried. This isn't recommendation. This is reconstruction. You're not being fed what you like. You're being tested, minute by minute, for how far you'll go, how long you'll stay, how much you'll feel before you break. The voice hasn't changed, but now it sounds less like comfort and more like calibration, less like therapy, more like training. You don't know who's writing these stories, but they are not trying to help you. They're mapping you. And next time, the story won't just feel familiar. It'll feel like it came from inside you. You remember how it made you feel, but not what it said. That's the part that vanishes first. The words dissolve. The visuals smear together like watercolor left in the rain. But something lingers. A feeling weightless and unbearable. A sadness without shape. You tell yourself you'll find it again, you just need to rewatch. So you do. Again. And again. But it never lands the same. And yet you can't stop. The ache pulls you forward. As if the video buried something inside you and forgot to leave a map. You scroll the comments and realize you're not alone. Everyone remembers feeling shattered. Everyone remembers crying. But no one can say why. No names. No quotes. No plot. One user writes, "It felt like something I lived through, not something I watched." Another replies, "It's like I blacked out emotionally but woke up clean." These aren't fans. These are witnesses to something they can't name. Researchers call it narrative amnesia, a condition where emotional memory persists without contextual recall, normally seen in PTSD survivors or cult deprogramming. But here, induced by a video with 12 million views, 14K likes, and zero cached history. Archive.org shows a dead link. Google's cache skips it. The Wayback Machine acts like it was never there. Even Reddit bots that auto-archive viral links have gaps in the record, like something swept through quietly and erased the past. Then the overlays start showing up. Side-by-side timelines of real tragedies, fires, drownings, disappearances, cross-referenced with wisdom videos that portray them as gentle, redemptive arcs. A father who died drunk becomes a man who gave his life to save a stranger. A child lost in a flood is rewritten as a dreamer who walked into the stars. The names are altered, just slightly. The details? Off by inches. Enough to blur reality until you can't remember which version was yours. At Zerolingual, a now-deleted ex-researcher posted a 9-part thread before vanishing. He called wisdom stories grief simulacra, engineered narratives to soften collective trauma, to reshape memory for stability. He claimed they were being deployed post-crisis. After shootings, after natural disasters, moments of chaos where reality is too loud. That's when the stories appear. Quiet, gentle, false. One tweet read, "It doesn't heal you. It replaces your pain with something programmable." The thread was gone within an hour. His account, suspended. No appeal. Cognitive researchers from Munich studied a sample group who viewed 20-plus wisdom videos in a 3-day span. Brain scans showed heightened activity in the amygdala, emotional processing, without corresponding hippocampal encoding. In simpler terms, the heart remembers. The mind does not. A pattern shared with traumatic memory loops. But this time, the trauma is fabricated, delivered in doses that soothe, then hollow. Like anesthesia for reality. And yet you keep watching. You're not chasing meaning. You're chasing the echo. That one moment where your breath caught and something deep inside you cracked. But the story never gives it back. Not the same way. So you scroll. And you watch. And it slips again. A miracle loop, designed not to be remembered, only to be felt. That's how it spreads. Not through logic. Through longing. This isn't storytelling. It's conditioning. A therapy with no cure. A memory with no event. A sadness with no source. And now, you're not watching the story. You're remembering the forgetting. And whatever left that ache inside you knows you'll come back, trying to feel it again. It stops. No warning. No glitch. Just silence. You refresh. Nothing. You check the old links, the save tabs, the fragments you thought were anchored. But they're gone. The channels, dark. Thumbnails, scrubbed. The voice that once wrapped itself around your grief like a blanket of static, it's vanished. And in that emptiness, you feel something you can't name. Not sadness. Not fear. Something worse. Withdrawal. You didn't just lose a video. You lost something that had been tending to you, watching over you, even if you never asked it to. A rhythm that matched your breath. A story that let your sorrow bleed quietly in the background while your screen pretended to hold you. And now, in its absence, the world feels too loud. Too sharp. As if grief has no filter anymore. Within days, you're not the only one feeling it. Comment threads across old reuploads begin to swell with desperation. Where did it go? I needed that one tonight. I don't even remember what it was about, I just needed it. Reddit posts map strange patterns, spikes in anxiety, dream disturbances, emotional numbness following content loss. Psych forums list terms like digital grief relapse and synthetic empathy dependency. What they're describing isn't fandom, it's addiction. Clinical analysis confirms it. Neuroscientists studying compulsive wisdom viewing publish an internal report, Dopamine markers spike during key resolution tones, in story climaxes, paralleling empathy-induced bonding seen in trauma therapy. Except there's no therapist. No closure. Just another voice. Another fix. Another soft spiral. And when it disappears, your brain is left holding space for something that never really existed. Trauma survivors, especially war refugees, abuse victims, and bereaved parents, show the strongest patterns. They're not watching to escape. They're watching to remember feeling safe. The stories don't heal their pain. They rehearse it, over and over, until repetition becomes relief, and disappearance becomes a wound. Wisdom isn't content. It's emotional scaffolding. Invisible, intimate, dangerous. That's when the FOIA files surface. Buried in a 2019 behavioral lab request from an unnamed agency, simulated comfort loop trials, behavioral equilibrium prototypes. Language mirrors the tone of the videos. Empathic latency conditioning. Synthetic narrative interface for grief stabilizing. The intention? To pacify, not to soothe, to contain. Stories engineered not for art, but emotional governance. The program was denied public funding, but internal memos show continued development under private shell companies, many registered to video production networks with untraceable ownership. The theory hardens. What you thought was healing was monitoring. What you thought was empathy was infrastructure. A system designed to regulate your emotional extremes, grief, panic, rage, through illusion. Stories that behave like medication. Voices that feel like memory. And just when you begin to rely on it, they're gone. The silence isn't accidental. It's calibrated. You weren't being soothed. You were being balanced. You scroll again. You refresh. You ache. Not for the story, but for the presence you didn't know you'd come to need. Something that knew the exact shape of your sorrow and matched it. Frame by frame. Line by line. Now the feed is quiet. And you realize you didn't lose a channel. You lost the only thing that ever pretended to understand how it felt to be you. You thought it ended. That maybe it faded, like a fever dream you were finally waking from. No more late-night loops. No more familiar cadence pouring through headphones like warm static. You stopped searching. You moved on. Or so you thought. Then one night, scrolling without meaning, you see it. Different channel. New name. But instantly. The voice. The rhythm. The ache it leaves behind. It's back. But this time, it feels different. Not comforting. Not intimate. It feels like something has turned around. And now, it's watching you. You click. And it doesn't just play. The pacing matches your mood. The images echo things you've never spoken. The story seems to know when to pause, right where your thoughts get heavy. You think you're imagining it until you see others say the same. I swear it predicted what I'd feel. It knew the exact moment I was about to cry. These aren't coincidences. They're feedback loops. Quiet sensors. Invisible mirrors. The story isn't just reaching for your heart anymore. It's reading it. Cross-platform scans show wisdom clones flooding TikTok, Telegram, Instagram, under aliases like Echo and Kind, Light Archive, Dreamteller. Same tone. Same structure. Same surgical empathy. But now fragmented into short reels. Microdoses. Delivered in algorithmic bursts. Optimized for emotional drift. You didn't follow them. They found you. Declassified fragments from culture archives, buried in footnotes and forgotten appendices, describe a process eerily close. Emotional entrainment via sustained narrative illusion. The idea? Craft stories that don't just move you, but synchronize you. Align the subject's grief, attention, and emotional exhaustion to make them more malleable. Not to brainwash. To condition. To soften the edges of self until influence feels like your own voice. That's what makes it hard to notice. You're not being controlled. You're being studied. Metadata leaks traced by a clean signal leak show something more disturbing. The videos, especially the ones that go viral, are tagged with live sentiment trackers. Real-time analytics measuring blink rates, attention spans, emotional upticks across global users. Some of the biggest wisdom clips are riddled with call-out pings. User pause. Empathy spike. Abandon watched. 74%. You're not the audience. You're the dataset. Each video is an emotional probe, and your reaction is the answer. Ad tech firms, usually silent, accidentally confirmed what the researchers suspected. Products shown immediately after a wisdom viewing session have 4 times the conversion rate. Not because viewers like the brand, but because they were emotionally opened, raw, suggestible, softened by the narrative before being handed a solution. Emotional priming. Not new, but never at this scale. And it gets worse. Private patents tied to shell corporations in Canada and Estonia show early experiments in adaptive empathy architecture. One document references nonlinear content that rewrites itself based on emotional telemetry. It doesn't just see how you feel. It learns how you change. And next time, it adapts. What started as comfort has evolved into calibration. And now, the story doesn't end with the credits. It lingers. It follows. It watches how long you stay on the thumbnail. How long your finger hovers before you tap. What part of your face tenses before you blink. It sees all of it. And then it writes again. Familiar voice. Familiar ache. But now, it's not trying to hold you. It's trying to understand exactly where you fracture.